Welcome to the Bountiful Chest. I'm Shadow. This is, well, there goes one. That's a bountiful chest of dice. Uh, just got the shirt today. It's real nice. This was not the first video I planned to make on this, but then I also planned to start this channel last year, talking about role playing across mediums and giving advice to new and old players alike, and just talking about a hobby that a lot of us are passionate about, but a lot's happened over the past couple days. And rather than just jump straight into the OGL, I want to go back a ways because prior to this whole fiasco, there was a book that almost didn't see print. Weiss and Hickman, the original authors of the Dragonlance trilogy, were brought back to write new books. And after writing this book, after writing the manuscript, making edits, making sure it fit all the criteria that Wizards of the Coast, or we're calling them WotC now, desired, the communication broke down and they were essentially told, oh yeah, you're done, you're out. And WotC screwed up. They don't know contract law. That's obvious from many things. Who's ever running the show doesn't know contract law and is not tapping legal to look into that. Because even if WotC doesn't have their own legal team, they should at least have Hasbro's legal team, and they desperately need them to look over the decisions these knuckleheads are making. But so Weiss and Hickman started a legal process, and wouldn't you know, they were approached. They dropped their case. The books are printed. Someone screwed up, and the best guess is that management was putting out other fires, and they were just collateral damage of panic. That should signal to Hasbro there's something wrong with how this company's being run. I don't know how much Hasbro knows, how much Hasbro does. I can't guess at the inner workings of these companies. I just know that there's clearly something wrong at WotC, regardless of what you believe on the OGL issues. There's clearly something wrong. Now, last month they declared, I guess it started out in Unearthed Arcana, but they were asked about it and they made a statement. They have replaced the term race with species. And they made a statement about it, that race is problematic as a term. I don't know about that, but is species probably a more correct term? Probably, but the culture of calling them fantasy races, like sci-fi races and Star Trek and things, that's basically old as the genres. But for some reason they made a statement about it, and it almost feels, to me, it feels like fishing for either, good guy points because they're doing something right, even if no one had a problem with it, or that they're establishing what the guidelines of who the bad people are, because we'll get to that in the OGL. So there was a leak about what the new OGL would be. There were already talk that they were going to create a new OGL, and people had been looking over the old OGL, and supposedly you can't cancel the old OGL because there is no method of canceling the old OGL. In fact, in an FAQ, they basically suggest that it doesn't serve their purpose to try to create a new OGL because you can always pick to use the old OGL. But that will eventually, if it gets to a courtroom, it'll be decided in a courtroom. But WotC didn't want this decided in a courtroom. Someone got a hold of that and said, "You broke contract. They will win. We will lose. Settle it." And they did. But so there are a couple grievances with the new attempt at the OGL. And to be clear, what was leaked is what they put. Not only this idea that it was a draft in their statement today, that's crap. They sent this out to people with contracts to sign to get them on board of it, to get them on board with it. So it wasn't a draft. They were planning to have that be the whole shebang. And one of the biggest grievances with it is actually one that not everyone's talked about. It's they put a clause in that they can change it at any time and only give you 30 days notice. So if you thought the terms were bad before, they could always get worse. And that's the biggest problem with it. But among other things is, and they have claimed that one of the things they wanted to do is prevent people using the OGL to use their product to create objectionable material. Like, you know, but it's a question. Apparently, there have been some issues. Maybe more on Magic the Gathering side. I'm not 100% sure. It's more of, is this really that widespread that you need to lock down the whole OGL over it? And it doesn't sound like it. Uh, and it's like, okay, someone made something objectionable. It's not like they needed the OGL to make objectionable objects or content of any sort and share it on the internet. People can share homebrew free at will all the time. The question is, are they selling it? I think because some people have said part of the OGL is control to, lock down people like Paizo that WotC has been sore over for a while. Uh, and there's a thing because I've been around the internet a long time. I've seen some really bad cases of moderation, and it's like you see the times where people get banned somewhere, 3 days on Twitch, and they never find out why, even if they're like a popular person with thousands of subscribers. Sometimes it happened to a couple VTubers not long ago, and it's like, so I asked them why. They wouldn't tell me. How am I supposed to avoid it? You're not. There's all sorts of people that have problems with moderation on YouTube, demonetizing them, remonetizing them 3 days later when the video gets no ad revenue anymore, or just random hits on things that are never explained. So the idea that the new OGL was going to have, well, we can stop anyone from having objectionable material. If we don't like it, they can't print it. But they could also just have no reason to do it. So you could hit anyone for any reason. And there's no guideline other than someone complained. And that is the weakest level of anything, because if decades on the internet have taught me anything, there's always someone offended by whatever content. And if you search for that person to use that as the bar to decide if something's objectionable, you'll always find it if you try to. And I kind of think this thing with the changing of the language to species might have been the setup for some of the preparation of where they were going to set the bar. Not that it mattered, because they could always move the bar and just reinterpret the bar case by case. It's like, again, how some people get, bans and demonetizations and can never find out why. And then there are people that have clear violations that somehow just skirt by the system the whole time. So do I trust WotC to ensure that objectionable material doesn't exist under the OGL? No. I, I trust them to ensure that whatever whim tickles their fancy at the moment is what they're going to go by, like so many other places on the internet. There are rules until they're not followed. Um, the money, obviously everyone objected to them just take. I think the major issue, I'd say, with how they set the money wasn't even so much because the scale was good. It's going to affect like a few groups, but not everyone. 25% harsh. Biggest problem would be it wasn't 25% of your profit. I think the way revenue would be decided is just straight 25% of all the money you got before you even hit your cost into the factoring of it. So it could have definitely hurt a lot of these companies that have sprung up around the OGL. Now, I think one of the biggest reasons this happened is because WotC has realized they missed out on a lot of money. People have made a lot of content. People have made a lot of products. I mean, you can get spell cards with a holographic image on it. It's animated. Your animated spell cards. I've seen ads for them like a million times. I've seen ads for stuff from Hit Point Press a million times. I've seen ads for Grim Hollow a million times. So WotC hasn't put out content compared to all of the third party. They have put out very little content, and the nature of 5 versus what 3.5 was, they're not going to put out a lot of content. They're not going to put out epic level books. They're not going to put out they don't seem interested in adding 20 more specializations to each class. They've kept a lot of this stuff. I mean, 5e was streamlined from the start, and it might be the idea to keep it streamlined, but that limits their content. And on the other side, they haven't even there are settings that they haven't even tapped. Apparently they have something against going back to Dark Sun, but they've they've tapped Ravenloft. The things in Curse of Strahd. It's like, if you're worried about the content of Dark Sun, why did you print Curse of Strahd? Uh, and then, you know, you have Grim Hollow printing all sorts of other horror. You have just all sorts of third party content, from, strongholds and followers to uh, people making spell cards and the like, and all these products. And WotC hasn't kept up. They haven't made this stuff in house, and they haven't tried to bring anyone in house. You didn't go. They didn't go the Microsoft path of, we like your product, we want to buy it from you. They've tried to sit on D&D Beyond being their main measure of how well their ecosystem is doing. And you should have added more to it. You should have added content. You could have given microtransactions to have other people's content on there. You could have created a whole marketplace to put all sorts of different content in there. And they didn't. And they've missed the bus completely at this point. Because even if someone said to them now, hey, we could just see if these people would sell us their products, and then we make it, and then it's licensed, trademarked merchandise, who's going to sell them now? The the animated spell decks, those aren't going to get sold to them. All these miniatures people make, they're not selling. All these content books, they're not selling to them. They're all looking to the next thing too now. Several of them are making their own systems. Some of them were probably already on the verge of it. I'm pretty sure Matt Colville probably has ideas for a hybrid, a system that's some sort of hybrid of 4E and 5E. Apparently, he loves 4E. Kobold Press. I don't know if I had that name right. They're putting forth a system, and now Paizo, the company that WotC is very sore over, apparently, is planning a open content license, and one that will exist in perpetuity, with no company holding control to change it or cancel it. And hopefully, this is going to, this should be good for the industry overall. Competition is usually good for industry because it requires people to innovate and make things to get people excited about product. I mean, when was the last time you were excited about D&D Beyond? Um, it's more of a thing. They hope that you bought into it and that you would keep buying into it, because now you have 10 to 20 characters logged in there. But print stuff off and get out of it, because it's not worth it anymore. You don't know what they're going to do now. D&D is going to have to change at some point. They were making this statement about, no, there's going to be no more editions. Well, you tried to take hold of all everyone else's content, and you failed. What's your next step? Because you have brand new competition on the scene. It's all these designers, I'm sure half of them had pipe dreams of it'd be real neat if I could make this. But why bother when I'm just stuck in the OGL. I'm stuck making for D&D. Well, they all have followings, and all their followings are upset at what WotC tried to do. It's the best time for all of them to set forth making a new system. So it and honestly, I think people that have only ever played D&D are limiting their themselves and their experiences. I've played at least half a dozen systems. Um, Multiple homebrews, World of Darkness, Vampire the Masquerade, uh, and all sorts of like wonky online systems and multiple versions of D&D, Palladium. Uh, I never got to play Big Eye Small Mouth. I never got into GURPS, but I'm aware of them. I have books for both. But WotC screwed up, and hopefully the next time I come in here and make a video, it's going to be on a much lighter note and not about how this industry just got shook up. And you know, yeah, they in their statement they said they rolled a one. Oh, they don't know how badly yet. They rolled a one on a D100. Well, while I can hope that D&D will continue to exist in one form or another, hey, we have all those old books that they can't take away now. So we'll see if one D&D is still going to be a thing, or if maybe we're going to switch gears, go 6th edition, and they'll just make a new OGL for that. That might be the path they go now. We'll see how it pans out for them. This has been Shadow on the Bountiful Chest. Roll well and have fun adventures, guys.